All right, story time on how this lady was turning tricks from her hospital room. All right, so picture this Sicily, 2017. Let me stop playing. Okay, no, Houston, 2017. So at this time, I am working in observation, and our unit was moved upstairs. They were in the middle of expanding the unit that they were building out for us. So we were sharing a unit with the rehab department, okay? All right, so they were expanding our unit. We were sharing a unit with rehab at this time. So we had, as observation, we had about 6 rooms, and then they had the whole floor. So the nurses station we shared, we had one half of the nurse station, they had the other half. So I'm a nurse that likes to cluster care. I like to get all my stuff done so I can sit down, chart, and chill before everything pops off, because normally things pop off a little later in the afternoon. So anywho, so I'm sitting at the nurse's station, and the room where the lady was at was like this, across from where I was sitting. And my rooms for observation was to the left of me. So I'm sitting there, and I see a man come out of her room. Don't think anything of it. He leaves, comes back up with another man. So I'm like, okay, visitors, whatever. And the man had the badge on and everything. So he goes into the room, and so I'm just, dilly dallying, doing my thing, going on about my day. So then I noticed a couple of hours later, the man who I now know was her pimp, or is her pimp. I don't know what she up to now. But anyway, her pimp goes down and get another man. So now this is number 2 that comes up. Again, I don't think anything of it. I'm like, okay, it's a family member, who thinks she's turning tricks in the room. So he goes in, the pimp comes out again, and leaves them in there. I go on about my day. So probably about maybe 2 hours later, the lady rings the call bell, and we would help each other out up there for the most part. At least observation would help. Rehab would rarely help us, honey. They was a little mad with us. We were in their space. But anyway, so she calls, and nobody else was at the nurse's station but me. So I go and I see what she needs. And she asked me for something I don't remember. But once I'm in there, I realize that the lady's leg is broken. Then the pimp is in there, and there's also a different man than the second man in the room now. So there was a smell in there, but this is the thing. When you're in the medical field, there's always a smell. And you just be like, Lord, you know what? Let me just hold my breath. Mind you, this was pre-COVID, so we weren't required to wear masks like that, as long as you got your flu shot. So I go and see if she realize her leg is broken. Pins is in it. She has it up, elevated, and she's laying in the bed. So I leave out. I go back to the nurse's station. About an hour later, the nurses in rehab are next to me at their side of the nurse's station. And they're like, there's a ruckus. They're, talking loud about something. I'm like, what's happening? So the primary nurse for this patient, she's like, girl, I think something not right in that room. I said, well, what you mean? She's like, there's been a lot of men coming and going all day. And I was like, yeah, there has been. I just thought it was family. She was like, I don't think so, because something don't smell right either when I go in there. And I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? And she was like, it smelled like sex. I said, you know what? You got a point. It didn't smell right when I went in there, but I just thought they was stinking. To be honest, I just thought they stunk. That's it. She was like, nah, something ain't right. So maybe about an hour later, the guy goes down again. The pimp. He gets somebody else and he brings it back up. Now we're watching, but we're not watching because we don't want to make it obvious. So he goes down again and he leaves out the room. And where he's going to sit. There's like a little waiting area by the elevators where you can sit with some chairs. He's sitting there. So the nurse at this time, and the charge nurse for them, they call security. They tell him what's going on. Now the man, I guess he saw security coming up. I don't know what prompted him to come back to the door, or maybe it was time's up. I don't know. So he comes back to the door. He's standing outside the door looking over at the nurse's station at everybody, whatever, with security. So the nurse and their primary nurse, the charge nurse, and security, they go to the door. They're like, we need to go in and check the patient. And he was like, oh, no, she good. Y'all don't need to go in right now. It was like, the security was like, you can't tell us that she can't go in there. This is the nurse that's the charge nurse. They need to go in and check the patient. She's under their care. So security pretty much moves him out the way. They go in the door, and all I hear is noise. So I'm standing over at the nursing station just looking. All I hear is noise. So next thing you know, they get everything situated. They put the other man out that was in there with her. They tell the pimp he can't come back up there, that he's not permitted on the grounds. If he's on there, they're gonna call the police. He's gonna go to jail, blah blah blah. So the primary nurse, when she finished, I said, well, what happened, girl? She said he was on top of her, like he was in the bed having sex with her. I was like, oh my goodness. So they ended up talking to the lady or whatever, the primary nurse, and come to find out, that's what was happening. She was turning tricks. All right, so the lady admitted to the primary nurse that she was turning tricks in the room, whatever. Pretty much that she could not stop. That was her means of income, and her leg was not going to stop her from getting her money. So they told her, like, ma'am, you can't do that. Like, you cannot do that in this hospital. But that was just so wild to me. And it really showed me that men don't care. Honey, they do not care what is going on with you. If all they're thinking about is coochie, they don't care what your ailment is. They don't care if you're on a sick and shut in list. That coochie is still working. It ain't on the sick and shut in list. That leg broke, but that coochie ain't broke. So I'm gonna pay you this money to get the coochie. And the crazy part is that you couldn't get another prostitute. Like, you couldn't get another sex worker who leg wasn't injured and get it paid up for some cooch. I mean, well, I guess it's a testament of how good her coochie was. I guess they say, listen, we're gonna pay for this injured coochie, honey. This leg, that coochie is all right. That leg injured, but that coochie is all right now.